Hey guys, Joe here. Welcome to another Dragon Ball FighterZ video, and welcome back to my review of patch 1.40. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Frieza, who didn't get a ton of changes, only got 6 changes, but the changes he did get were pretty nice overall, and quite fascinating. So, let's take a look at them. The first change we're going to look at is to Frieza's auto combo, specifically the last hit of the auto combo, which got a pretty interesting change. Specifically, if you hit an opponent with the last hit of the auto combo on block. And if you do, here's what happens. You are made plus on block, plus 20 on block, which is just insane. But it gets even crazier because you can, out of this, you can do the medium version of Death Slash. And then start oppressing them with your zoning tools. Or you could cover yourself with the slow orb and, you know, make something happen out of that. Like canceling into 5, like going into 5S. Or using your full screen medium, 5M, or going for the medium version of Death Slash. Not sure about this. Yeah, no, that probably wouldn't work. Actually, you know what? That could certainly work as well, to get yourself right up in the opponent's grill. So, overall, a pretty interesting change, and one that I think could potentially lead to some very interesting block strings for Frieza. So this could, I don't know how, how much use this is gonna have, but I guess only time will tell. But it is an interesting buff, one that could have some really strong zoning utility, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The next group of changes, and I do mean group, it is a whole fucking laundry list of changes, are for Frieza, who got his 5M buffed. Again. So, the buffs this move got were pretty nice. First things first, they sped up the attack startup. It is now 12 frames up close, and from all the way back here, 25 frames, which is nice. But it gets better than that, because if you've noticed, Frieza's 5M now has him at -5 on block, which means, you guessed it, reduced recovery on his 5M, which is just absolutely fucking crazy. So now this button is safe, which is crazy, considering it already goes full screen. And speaking of which, they apparently adjusted the distance. Even though this move already went full screen, I don't know why they needed to adjust the distance, but hey, it's appreciated. It's an appreciated buff. I'm not gonna lie. But of course, if that were all that she wrote, that'd be fine, but of course not. There's still 2 more buffs to go over, both of which kind of correlate to the same thing. So, this is Frieza's normal 5M. Nothing too unfamiliar, right? But watch what happens when I do, 5M and hold back. You now delay the button. In other words, Frieza now has a 4M. So, on block, up close, you are plus, and in regards to the startup, you have 21 frames. But in regards to long range, it's pretty much the same. Literally no different. You have a 25 frame startup, and you are +4 on block, which is crazy. But what's even crazier is just what kind of shit you can get up to with this. You are 0 on block, which basically means you are free to do whatever the fuck you want afterwards. And not only that, but on block strings, you can now mix up the timings of Frieza's 5M. So you could do a normal 5M, and if you start up another block string, you could then do the 4M. Or, you know, you could, you know, just watch, just watch. So, yeah, you've got that at your disposal now, which is pretty crazy. And the fact that you're 0 on block, especially that close up, is incredibly good. So, you know, this is going to definitely help out with Frieza's block strings. His pressure is going to be a lot better, which is nice. But other than that, the only other thing I want to talk about in regards to this new version of 5M, or 4M as I'm going to call it because it's basically what it is, aside from on block, its properties are also very much different on hit. So, as you saw there, that was just one example of, you know, just a simple combo you could do with this new version of 5M, which is just absolutely crazy. It's crazy, man. But just to you know, give you an idea of what this now looks like. This is what the normal version of 5M looks like on hit. Right? Pretty decent hit stun, but watch what happens when I do the delayed version. And actually hit. You have them in hit stun for just a bit longer, which is interesting, because you're going to be able to do some pretty interesting extensions off of that. I already just spoiled one of the new changes, but just ignore that for a bit. But overall, 5M got some really good buffs. This move is one of Frieza's best easily, if not his best, in regards to like his normal buttons. And it is definitely going to be a lot better for him in every regard going forward, which is nice. The next changes we're going to be looking at are to Frieza's 5S. Now, Frieza's 5S is one of his best zoning tools, and this patch gave him 2 buffs to this specific move. The first of which being increased damage. That's what the full barrage looks like. But a single Ki Blast does 450 damage now, which is just insane. But it's also really good because it's going to make his zoning a lot more potent. And on block, it doesn't do chip damage still, for some reason, but not a big deal. Faster projectile still very, very good. But increased damage is not the only buff that 5S got, because if you now hold forward and backwards, you can change the projectile speed. So this is the normal projectile speed, 21 frames. If you hold forward, 19 frames. If you hold back, 23 frames. So depending on what direction you hold, that now changes the projectile speed. So Frieza now has a 4 and 6S, which is just insane. But it is also going to do a lot for his zoning, because again, 5S is one of his best zoning tools, and this is ultimately going to allow him to mix up the speed of his projectiles during his full screen, you know, block strings, which is going to be pretty nice. And as for how it's used in not projectiles, how it's used in combos, obviously, I don't think I need to tell you, it is going to do a lot more damage. So, you know, not much to really say there. So, overall, the changes to his 5S are really, really nice. Because now, not only is his combo damage further increased, but his, one of his best zoning tools now has multiple variants with differing projectile speeds that are going to allow him to mix up his zoning, which is really nice. The next changes I want to talk about are to Frieza's 1S, 2S, and 3S, aka his crouching ki blasts. 2S was not changed, so there's nothing to talk about there. But for 1S and 3S, they got some pretty interesting changes. So let's start with 1S. Tell me if you notice a difference. If you've played Frieza before this patch, tell me if you notice a difference. Notice anything different? What about 3S? Notice anything different? The answer is you now move further when you do 1S or 3S. And I'm not gonna lie, these changes are pretty good, very good in fact. Do I have my issue with them? Of course I do, but it's more so a nitpick than an actual problem. I'll get more into that later, but let me just tell you how incredibly good these changes are. So, let's start with 1S. It now acts as a retreating ki blast similar to what Yamcha has. And of course you can do them consecutively into each other, right? Now, let's say I program Gogeta to Super Dash, right? That's the magic of just how fast the recovery on this move is, because if they Super Dash at you, they're Ki Blast Invul while Super Dashing, but you can, because you have so little recovery, you can immediately 2H and get a confirm off that, which is absolutely fucking awesome. But that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing, because on top of that, you also can do shit like this. Just to name an example of something you can do, like in a block string, just figured I'd bring that up. But yeah, that's really, really fucking cool. And I believe you could do shit like that too, which is just absolutely fucking bonkers. So, I don't know if this would work, but I'm curious. Nope, I think I'd have to. I think I'd have to time it just right. That works, but I don't think the 2-2S afterwards works. Actually, let me think. Could it work on hit maybe? Maybe. Oh, I wish. Oh. Whoops. Okay, so let me try it in the corner then. Oh, I so fucking wish. Wait, actually, you know what I just realized? Hold on. You could do something like that, which is, of course, just absolutely fucking insane, right? So, then there's 3S. Now, I'm not going to complain about this change because you can do shit like this. Right, now you can do shit like that. Which is cool. So the changes to 1S and 3S are really, really nice. Especially the changes to 1S, which are just Super cool. Oh, and as for how 1S acts in a combo, just watch this. You can still super dash it, which is nice. So combos with this are not totally lost, right? So that's always a good thing. But yeah, 1S and 3S having their, greater distance is definitely an interesting change, but not one I'm upset about. I, of course, as I mentioned, do have one little nitpick about it that I do want to get into, but I'll get to that later at the end of the video. But until then, very nice buffs. The next change is to Frieza's jumping medium, which got an increase in stun time on the first hit of the attack, since it's a 2-hit. With this being the first hit. So now, if you get the first hit of this attack, let me just do a re-jump just to kind of give you an idea of what they did. So they increased the stun time of the first hit of the attack, which overall is more than likely a combo buff, and I would not be surprised if that was meant as a combo buff, because that re-jump is much easier to do now. And on top of that, Frieza can now do golden loops in his base form with this change, as well as the change to 5M. I don't know how to do the Frieza loops, but don't worry about it. But regardless, the first hit of Frieza's 5M now having more stun time is going to do wonders for Frieza's combo game. And again, as you saw with the re-jump, it's definitely going to make something like that a lot easier. And if you do like a single hit of JM, you now have more stun time, right? So you can do stuff like that. So overall, this is just a major combo buff for Frieza, which is extremely nice. So very, very happy with that change, because it's going to make a lot of Frieza's combos a lot easier, such as his re-jumps and whatnot, and they're also going to make his combos a lot more flexible, which is awesome. And the last change Frieza received this patch is to none other than his JS. He now has reduced recovery. You now recover much quicker out of JS. What this is going to do for him, I'm not sure, but this could potentially be a really nice combo change, or even a really nice change on block. I don't know. I mean, you can make yourself +1 if you wanted to. Or -3. So, this could potentially be good for some block strings. Potentially is the key word. But this could also be good as a combo tool. I'm not too sure yet. That still has yet to be seen, and I still have yet to test that. But if that is the case, if those two applications are what this change was meant for, then it is a very strong buff for this move. I still feel like there's more that can be done with this move, but again, we'll get to that. But overall, it's a pretty nice buff. And with that, we have now covered every single change that Frieza received this patch. And I'm not gonna lie, even though Frieza didn't get much, every change he got makes a huge difference. In some way, shape, or form. With that said, we now come to the part of the video where I go over all the changes I liked and disliked. But here's the thing. Frieza is in a very similar position to Super Saiyan Vegeta, in that I do not dislike a single change that he received in this patch. Every change he received, I really, really liked. I am very happy with the changes he received. And of course, one of my favorite changes was to, 5M, as well as 1S. Do I have some, nitpicks with certain changes? Of course. But that's okay. Sometimes you're gonna have those. You're not invalidated by having them, But overall, Frieza got some really nice changes, and I'm very happy with all the changes he did receive. So, nice job, Arxis. Well done. And now we come to the final part of the video where I list off all of the changes that I personally would make to the character. Now, Frieza in his current state is in a fairly good spot, I'd say. But are there still things that I would definitely change about the character? Absolutely. If I had things about the previous characters, which, as of, this point, I've only had 2 characters, which I've had a decent list of changes for. I still do have some things that I would more than certainly change about Frieza. Speaking of which, let's talk about those. The first thing I want to go over is Frieza's J2H. Now, the move itself is not bad. In fact, if we take a look at this, 18 frame startup, not bad, and plus on block, very good. But I do have one problem with it that I feel needs to be brought up, and that's that if you do, let's say you do a very long combo with Frieza, you have no way of getting a meterless sliding knockdown unless you, and this is like actually how you do it. Do Frieza's level 1 and get a DHC with another super. That's it. Or, in the case of if you have Ginyu on your team, do Frieza's 236S, level 1, then do Ginyu's level 1 immediately after, then jump out of the level 1 after Frieza's level 1 connects, and then do a jumping Dragon Rush. That is literally the only way to get a sliding knockdown with this character. That's it. That's the only way. However, if this move were sped up, it would make getting a sliding knockdown much easier. So, for J2H, the only buff I would give it is a faster startup, going from 18 frames to 15 frames. This would make connecting after a long combo much easier and grant Frieza a meterless sliding knockdown, which is something I think the character could very much do with. The second thing I want to talk about is J2S. Now, the projectile itself is not bad, but I would certainly like to see a variant of this move that has a higher launch angle, right? So, I would personally like to see a J3S that has a lot higher launch angle, but retains the same properties as J2S. Simple as that. Next thing I want to talk about is 1S and 3S. Now, I have no problem with the current version of these moves, but I would definitely like to see the old versions of these moves return. The best way I could think of to make, to bring those moves back is by having it so that the old versions require you to press the button to activate them, while the current versions of the moves, the ones that move you forward much further, require you to hold down the button for a period of time to activate them. So, in other words, the old versions require you to press the button, the new versions would require you to hold the button. That's it. That's all I would want. Then there's JS. It's a great combo extender in the corner, but I want it to be a little bit better at comboing mid-screen. So what I would do personally is, first things first, have the second hit launch the opponent at an angle that can allow you to cancel out of the JS and combo out of the second hit, right? So you do 2 hits. It causes the opponent to spin out, but keeps them close to you so that you can convert out of the JS either with a super dash or by, you know, canceling out of the move with, you know, your air buttons. Basically, this would just make the second hit of the JS better for combos. The second change I would make, in correlation with the third change I would make, is to the third hit. I want the third hit of the JS to not only have greater knockback, but a strong wall bounce. This way, if you're in the air and you use this move, you can super dash off of it, or if you're on the ground, or close enough to the ground, you could convert off of the wall bounce. That's what I would want. That is what I would want for JS. Then there's Sorbet's Ray Gun. Or, actually no. Before we get to Sorbet's Ray Gun, I actually do have one other thing I want to talk about. And that's this. So you know how when you do that, the opponent gets trapped to the projectile and gets dragged across the screen? Well, something I've come to realize is that there's not a slow variation of, you know, the projectile even when they're, you know, caught up, even when the opponent is caught up in the projectile, when they're trapped in it. So I would like a slower variant of the projectile so that you could, you know, convert off of it into other things, or make certain conversions easier, especially like if you do something like having a projectile that converts slower, having a projectile that would move slower would allow you to convert in so many ways. That's something I would absolutely want. Then we come to Sorbet's Ray Gun, which is, let me show you. It only works if you use Golden Frieza, but once you deactivate it, if you press the special button. That's the hit reaction. But if you would also take a look, it does 2400 damage. That's a bit much, so I think Sorbet's Ray Gun should do just a little less damage. A little less damage. I'd say about 1200 damage would be more than sufficient. Just to make it a little more fair to deal with, especially if the Frieza player just throws out, you know, Sorbet's Ray Gun, even if the opponent isn't in hit stun, right? Next thing I want to talk about is Frieza's assists. Starting with A assist. A assist has 2 problems that I can think of. The first one being poor block stun. And I think the block stun should be increased to 35 frames. As for the hit stun, not great, but not terrible. But I definitely think it could be increased. And I think it should be increased by like 15 or 20 frames more. This way, you can have an easier time converting off of it. Or, you know, comboing with it. And last but not least, B assist. Now, I don't have too many problems with B assist, but there is one problem I would like to display. That's pathetic. 11 frames of block stun. Come the fuck on, dude. This assist needs more block stun, so I would definitely increase the block stun from 11 frames to anywhere between 30 to 35 frames. This way, it can actually be utilized much better on block, and in block strings, or in neutral. And that all said and done, that brings us to the end of this video. Those are all the changes I would personally make to Frieza, and that brings us to the end of the video. So, first of all, I want to thank you all for watching. Secondly, next video is going to be a video I've been waiting to do for a while now, where we look at all the changes Captain Ginyu got this patch. And believe me, this is going to be a pretty long video, so, you know, it's going to be a pretty long video, so hope you're ready for what's coming this Saturday. And speaking of Ginyu, that combo guide, I still owe you guys that, and as promised, it will be done. It will be released after the Ginyu video, after the Ginyu patch review video, so stay tuned for that. But until we meet again this Saturday, I hope you guys take care and don't do anything stupid. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch y'all later.